Highland. The Asia highland include mountains in Central Asia, South Asia, and the Southeast Asia. That include Tibetan Plateau.
Humans have dramatically influenced planet Earth and are now altering some of Earth's most important operating systems: the water, carbon, nitrogen, and phosphorus cycles. Though relatively remote, the Asian highlands have not escaped these global changes. The region is increasingly subject to land use and land cover changes, global flows of trade and commercial products, and global warming, with temperatures rising faster here on the roof of the world than most other regions of the planet. That glaciers and snowfields are melting and will continue to melt. High altitude, water-saving wetlands are under stress and may be disappearing, and grasslands are losing their water storage capacity as they dry out.
As the climate warms, we see that the bioclimatic zones are shifting upwards. So in our recent modeling, we predict that within the next 35 years, by 2050, the zones that are now, let's say, below 1,000 meters or between 1,000 and 1,500 meters, these bioclimatic zones, that we can expect that these are shifting up, and they're already shifting up.
There are about 800 species of rhododendron in the world. In the Himalaya, there is 600 species occurring from the Western Himalaya to the Eastern Himalaya and the Hendong Mountain. The flowering of this plant is noticed shifting with the changing climate. Then definitely the arrival of insect and life cycle of a lot of insect and bird will be affected.
There's an idea that these types of, that as the climate warms, that these zones will shift in a smooth way and that species can move along and adapt to new circumstances. In general, this might not actually be true.
This species will lose its habitat in the lower elevation in temperate region. At the same time, it is expected to invade alpine ecosystem.
It's not just that the temperature is getting warmer or there's going to be more or less rainfall, but as the climate goes into a period of disturbance and natural cycles become uncoupled.
Scenario analysis reveals an escalating trend in mountain watershed. It could result in too much water during the monsoon and too little in dry season.
Especially in the Himalaya, that we see more of the precipitation is falling as rain and less as snow, and this is affecting the agricultural calendars already.
Climate change affects smallholder farmers more than other occupations, mainly because crops or other agricultural products are strongly dependent on climate or on climate variation. Irregular rainfall, too much water or not enough water, droughts, decreasing precipitation. That may severely limit abilities of farmers to grow crops. Now, farmers in mountain areas are more susceptible to climate change than farmers in lowland areas, simply because we have evidence that climate change effects are more pronounced at upper altitudes than at lower altitudes. Another group of land users in mountain areas that is particularly affected by climate change are pastoralists, moving their animals to places which are more suitable.
Looked in the Tibetan Plateau, and as all of you know, it's a very crucial watershed because it's the headwater of the Yangtze, the Mekong and the Yellow River. Most of the sites are heavily degraded by overgrazing. Of course, there are certain groups of people that feel the priority is water protection and people should not have a livelihood in these critical watersheds. On the other hand, there are people that believe it's important that people in these watersheds can have a livelihood and even maintaining the grassland and improving the ecosystem services from grasslands.
Our research mission in the Asian highlands is challenging. We are learning a lot about the Asia highlands, but despite a lot of progress, there is still much that we just do not know.
Rubber is the fastest growing crop that we see there, and this is true throughout Southeast Asia. And it's the major driving force leading to deforestation and biodiversity loss. Well, at the moment, we see that in southwest Yunnan, almost all of the area where rubber could have been planted has been planted with rubber.
In Sichuan, where rubber has expanded hugely in the last 20 years, and also across the border in Myanmar, Laos and northern Thailand, where rubber is expanding very rapidly today. Plantation crops like rubber have been expanding very rapidly throughout the tropics and replacing multi-use landscapes which supported a number of ecosystem services.
What is happening there is largely a result of the markets. Yunnan and Chinese rubber industry is basically a product of Chinese industrial policy. These recent investments by Chinese investors are also partly a result of Chinese industrial policy. The latest one, the going out policy, and especially when we talk about rubber, it's the opium replacement policy. But overall, these are all industrial policies.
To find successful solutions for a sustainable future for people and nature in the Asian highlands, we need to engage a wider slice of the stakeholders, from farmers to government officials. Listen to the widest range of voices throughout the highlands.
How to bring different stakeholders together. So we're not talking about the Chinese stakeholders, but the other stakeholders in the other downstream countries in Mekong, for instance.
Recent water governance decision-making in the Asian highlands has not been very effective.
We have 10 river basins in this region. So most are transboundary. So we try to bring stakeholders from downstream and upstream sitting together to try to achieve the local agreement to have better manage and better governance of water resources.
ICRAF China always works with partners, and this is crucial because one main aim is to build capacity among partners, but also have mutual learning.
We developed the first rangeland methodology, which contribute to carbon sequestration.
So basically, we set up preliminary research together with the Chinese Institute of Grasslands in Jining, together with colleagues from FAO, developed the first carbon accounting methodology, which was submitted to the verified carbon standard and validated by two independent verification bodies. Subsequently, after the work we have done in China, we worked together with a Swiss development corporation in Mongolia.
Chinese Academy of Agricultural Sciences, where they have the largest scientists in China work in agricultural sector. We closely work with them with the food, nutrition, livestock, and animal husbandry. So we can transfer this technology to other countries nearby and even Africa. We have very closely choose the most vulnerable ethnic minority in the region, and that's our directly partner is the local community. We develop participatory approach and use to document their traditional ecological knowledge. We support them to do technical innovation and also to the local community planning and for better life and a better environment.
2003年，我们开始与混农林中心合作的时候当时因为林下种植呢作为中前的边缘性的行业，政府的关注度不高。但是我们对混农林业组织倡导的自下而上农户参与决策，以增强农户能力建设为核心的扶贫理念呢有认同感，让农户广泛的参与进来，让他们多提意见。
原来政府家呢，这个草林项目是因为有的果松，那么像我们的果松也整个都栽过些，是吧？那么多数呢是比较成功的嘛。混农林中心给我们这个项目来了以后呢，包括我们的树苗、茶苗，都是他们整我们来呢。这个就是茶叶青木林，是吧？混在一起种的了嘛。为什么山里扶不起？这就是没有这些东西，老百姓呢天天要扛，是吧？ 那么这些山林就扶不起。
这块松子呢是由那个昆明的混农林公司进台的，通过那个日本、美国、欧盟几个国家的来认证，从原来的不认证之前的8元到9元1公斤，到现在认证以后的最低就是14到15元1公斤。
We have implemented the agroforestry system in Baoshan, particularly intercropping system between tree and herbal medicine. Within this agroforestry system, both tree and herbal medicine are grows very well because the nutrition they can exchange, and on the other hand, it's a sustainable way to kind of use the wild species of the herbal medicine.
除了松子这一块，现在有机当归这一块，但这一块呢是以通过认证种植公司也合作着。我有机当归呢是通过培训学习，我军的合作下去的那个进度。
有机地嘛是不能压肥料，就是压修肥。你走虫拔草都是用手。
那么收入上这一块呢是有机当归的价格比普通当归的价格每1公斤是高着1.5元到2元左右。
We work with smallholder farmers, not only improve the technology, land use practice, but very important to bring smallholder farmers to access to local market through the value chain, through the organic certification, and also through the technical transfer for processing, bioenergy, and also the non-timber forest products.
But now, there are real chances for change in a positive direction. The ongoing impacts to natural ecosystems due to climate change are more difficult to ignore. Scientists are also beginning to better understand these changes and are learning to tell their stories behind their data more effectively. The slack in ecological and social systems is disappearing. However, this provides an opportunity for decision makers to integrate information from science and local knowledge.
We've got plots established here in Xiaozhongdian, then down in Baoshan, Mongsong, Thailand and in Laos. And we're looking at fungal diversity. So we look at why the villages have adopted the systems they've adopted, and we compare it against what we think is best practice. And we can maybe find a middle ground or a best way forward as such.
通过实施那个野生干巴菌的人工助繁项目，然后我们出台制定了一些相关的规范制度，然后嘛，你什么时候能够采摘，长多大能够采摘，都有一套相关的制度，然后嘛，加强那个对周边村民的教育，林地得到较好的保护，效益也是越来越好。
So aside from the work we do on mushroom diversity, a big part of the focus of our group is nitrogen fixing trees. We're using trees within agricultural landscapes to improve not only crop production but also soil quality.
会农业中心来我们社厅能够搞这个项目，干巴菌呢那个质量也提高，数量也多。这个林子里面呢，就是除了干巴菌，还有的好多像有这杂菌子，我加上树林多，没有相当处理那几早上，就是每早上都是可以拿到1-200件。
So it's an interesting way of comparing a modern scientific view of agroforestry with a more traditional way of agroforestry and try find a best practice. Ultimately just making a far more sustainable system and moving away from the monoculture systems which dominate much of this landscape.
We are developing a project we've termed Green Rubber in Sichuan. The aim of this Green Rubber project is to develop ways of restoring ecosystem services within the rubber monoculture. We want to study how rubber has impacted ecosystem services, economic consequences of this. And next we want to conduct a number of small-scale experiments aimed at restoring ecosystem services. These will include things like understory restoration and also maintaining features in the landscape such as forest corridors. A big component of the project is looking at governance mechanisms for implementing a green rubber model.
橡胶籽油产自橡胶树的种子，长期以来，这种植物油都被忽视了。根据我们的调查推算，全世界橡胶籽油的年产量有160万吨，超过了芝麻油和亚麻籽油的产量，并且主要分布在热带地区。从营养价值的角度讲，橡胶籽油是一种非常有营养的木本油料，含人体必需脂肪酸，尤其是欧米伽3脂肪酸。
Well, if you look at the current development of land use in the Mekong region, we can see a fading out of traditional land use systems which reduce the diversity of livelihoods but also biodiversity in the landscape.
"和云南林化集团合作的矿山恢复项目，主要让矿山纯素腐绿，提高矿山土壤质量，能够增加矿山的经济收入。
For this purpose, the mining site has established several agroforestry sites. The trees within these agroforestry systems are mainly fruit trees, with intercropped with a wide crop rotation of beans, potatoes, chilies, maize, and different kinds of cabbages.
The main challenge is how to build young generation within local community, within research society, to build the local leadership to manage natural resources and also to enhance local capacity for planning and implementation. We recruit a lot of graduate students, provide a scholarship, provide integrated scientific training in order to reach high standard research capacity, provide decision support for their own government in the countries. We have one postdoc called Stephanie. She's really look at the greenhouse gas emission from decomposition of forest land. So why don't you organize a few slides and for her to look at, and she can give you advice and perhaps to support you.